Good morning and welcome to another installment of I don't want to call it working towards financial freedom because that may not be your goal. Mainly just getting a handle on your finances and so that you don't feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck. For a lot of people, that may be just the only goal. Um, and that's okay. And I know that it will definitely depend on what time of your life that you're in, that will kind of depend that will influence what exactly you want to do with your finances. So let's get started on the actual stuff that matters. I'm going to talk today about planning a budget and actually sticking to it. Um, and the first thing that I recommend is using something that tracks all that you're spending. So that may mean that you are using only one credit card or using there are a lot of different apps that you can use to track your spending. I personally use Mint, and it because I have a lot of credit cards. Um, and used for different things. So it's a lot easier for me to be able to see. The Mint will be able to track what exactly is in whichever category. And the reason that I suggest this is because most people do not know how much they're spending on random shit. To be quite honest, I would love to call it something out, like use this thing, but it really is just like random stuff that you don't even realize. That because it'll be $3 here and $5 here and all these other things, you end up spending like three or $400 a month. And don't get me wrong, that's your choice, but the idea of being able to do it consciously of saying, "Okay, well, I'm making a conscious choice to purchase this water bottle versus, oh, like I'm thirsty, I just need to go grab a water bottle," will definitely be helpful in the long term. And this is something that I kind of talk about with, oh, no. Oh, this is Honey. She's so cute. And she's going away now. So I decided to talk about this because I am an impulsive shopper. I love shopping and spending money. And if you're trying to gain any semblance of control over your finances, it's not good to be that type of person. So you have to, for me anyway, I had to trick myself into still being able to get that, you know, still being able to feel satisfied in that way while also not actually spending a lot of money. Uh, and the reason, so a lot of, so the first main reason failed planning, that I failed when I first planned my budgets was that I didn't properly allocate how much money I needed for each thing per month. So when you set a budget, that's why I recommend getting the Mint or, using one credit card, and most credit card companies will be tracking your spending, and because that's how they make their money, most credit card companies will be tracking your spending, and they will in fact give you a rundown of it. And when that's the case, you'll be able to see, oh, I have budgeted $250 for new clothes per month, but I'm spending 500 and I didn't even realize that. And that's why you want to take at least maybe a month or two. Most people say like 1 month, but the fact of the matter is my expenses change each month. I This month I spent $1,000 on dental services, which obviously in my budget is going to say, if when I say I spent $1,000 on dental services, um, it's going to say that I overspent, but as long as I'm not but as long as I'm not overspending in the other areas, that doesn't, it doesn't necessarily matter. It's more of saying that on average, what are you going to be spending for each month? What I found for me, my boyfriend, people who are millennials, Zillenials, Gen Z, however you want to describe it, they're going to be spending a lot of money on food, on food, which really is eating out, uh, as well as the food that you buy at the grocery store, especially with the way inflation is going. But for me, again, just really more so speaking for me, I have found that I spend upwards of $1,000 on food. And it's something that you don't realize. It's something that I never realized until I was tracking it. And then I remember when I first realized it, I was spending like 1,200 a month on food. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, how am how, because you wonder how it's happening when you're sitting there wondering how it's happening, like, "Where is this money going? Where is this money going?" And you're wondering, "How do I spend $1,200 on food?" Um, and that again, it doesn't matter if you're spent let me rephrase that. It doesn't matter if you're spending $1,200 on food. It matters if you're doing it unintentionally or intentionally. And I think that is probably the biggest thing that I would want to say about planning the budget is that your budget adds intentionality to your overspending and your discretionary funds. Uh, so, um, I so the next highest category, not this is not including rent or your mortgage, because obviously for most people those are going to be the most expensive because of how high living rental mortgage payments are right now. It's just crazy. So regardless of that, food is definitely going to be the highest. The second highest for me, is going to the second highest for me actually ended up being shopping. And a lot of times when these places categorize shopping, they categorize it as like clothes, your miscellaneous. They'll put Target and like Walmart in there as well, I believe. So if you do a lot of your shopping there, that'll be counting as shopping. Really, any of the sort of random things that you buy, that are non-perishable goods, meaning that if you're buying a clothing item, or you're buying a microphone, or you're buying a light or a lamp or something, um, they will generally count it as shopping, as retail shopping. Sometimes they may separate the home improvement stuff, because that is often considered different, because if you're doing home improvement or stuff like if you're doing home improvement, may end up that may end up helping you out in the long run, because it'll add value to your home or sustain the value. So they may count that as different as well. But again, planning the budget and sticking to it is going to, for me, basically required a changed mentality of I want something immediately versus I want something in the future. And this kind of, I think one of the best ways to uh, describe this phenomenon is with the marshmallow experiment. Um, I'm not a professional researcher in that area, but the marshmallow experiment was essentially, you can find some of the videos on YouTube actually, and the children are put into a room with one marshmallow on the table, and they're told, you're going to sit in here for 15 minutes. You can have one marshmallow now, or in 15 minutes, if you don't eat the marshmallow in this room, we'll give you two marshmallows. Um, and what they find is that the children who are able to wait for the two marshmallows, they're better set up for success in life, meaning that they already have this sort of discipline to be forward thinker to reconciliate your desires in the present versus your desires in the future. And that is kind of what the concept of stick planning and sticking to a budget is being able to reconcile what you want right now, and what you want in the future. And I know for most people do not think about the next 5 years or the next 10 years. In fact, I would argue, again, I'm not a professional in this area, but I would argue that humans generally in our DNA, we're not prepared for that, meaning that in our ancestral history we were really just planning on taking it day by day, hour by hour. Okay, what do I need now? I'm hungry, I need to go hunt. I'm going to go hunt, and then I'm going to go hunt, and then you're going to go get the food. And that was really what it was, is for a lot of our history we struggled with finding clean water, finding food, hunting food, and that was what we spent a lot of our time doing. So it wasn't really spent on future thinking of okay, so there's we hunted this meat, and we're gonna try to but, we think it may rain tomorrow. So we're gonna store this meat elsewhere. They would probably just eat the meat, save whatever they could, but they wouldn't be thinking of, okay, well, what's gonna happen tomorrow? Do we think there's gonna be a drought, and things like that. So because of that, it's not something that again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not any financial advice. I'm just talking about my experience. But my guess would be that humans mostly are not innately wired to be planning a budget and sticking to it, um, and planning on balancing our future and our present, because mostly we had to focus on the present. Now, what does this mean for the budget? This means that you're going to have to be working hard and putting in intentional energy, um, like like you would for your work. And I say this because doing this takes so much time. It's actually really annoying how much time I will spend, um, how much time I've spent actually realizing, like, oh, my student loans have grown 10,000 by $10,000, and being like, oh, that's crazy. I didn't know that. It takes intentionality of going and searching and actually looking back at what you spent over the last 2 or 3 months and saying, "Wow, I spent $1,000 on clothes, and it didn't make me any happier. And now I have this random issue that I haven't saved for. That it would be great if I had some sort of savings." Um, so so again, it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of energy, but I think generally over the experience I've had, it's been worth it. Now, the next time, I actually do have to go soon because I have a meeting. But I definitely want to make sure that I set up this is going to be like a part one, and the next one will be a part two. The reason that that I decided to discuss this today is because I am going to be planning a budget for next month, because my boyfriend and I need to be saving at least $1,000, and we're going to need to be saving a lot of that money. And what does that mean? We're going to need to be planning a budget, and sticking to it. And I think that um, that is where I'm going to leave off. But have a good day. I hope you all plan a budget and stick to it, or go and look at your own spending patterns, and go from there. Uh, Thank you. If you like this video, if you like listening to me, if you like listening to me, like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Oops. And share.